Hello, I am Queen 504. Welcome to Genealogy with the Queen. This is my very first stream, and I am new at this, so please be patient with me. But I came to talk about Genealogy 504 style. Being here in Louisiana, um, sometimes you run into a lot of roadblocks trying to research your ancestry and go back and find those connections and those relationships that you're looking for. But with the amount of plantations that we have here, a lot of paperwork isn't available. It isn't readily available, so you do have to find other resources to kind of go to. And here in Louisiana, that could include the mix of a lot of things, such as you've got if, were your ancestors, original ancestors that came here and landed in the Lafayette area, the Acadiana parishes. Then you may find their names in the records of the ships or the boats that came here when the Acadians were expelled from Canada. You may want to go that way depending on what your surname is. Um, so I recently decided to take the journey of um, finding my ancestry, my roots. Both sides of my family are here from Louisiana, from the Acadiana parishes. Um, it was not hard to start my genealogy journey. Um, I was able to. We already had family reunions once a year, so once a year we were putting pieces together um, as to our family and the family history. However, what we got wrong out of the gate was the surname of one of my grandparents, and every year we would have um, family reunions and we would use this surname. And so that passed on to from through oral history. That information passed down from generation to generation. So now you've got other generations using a surname that is incorrect. And it wasn't even close, other than the first letter. It wasn't even close to what the surname should have been. So it was at that time I decided that I wanted to start working on the family tree and wanted to know the best way to go about doing that. And so when I went online and looked everything up and did some research, I found that generally there were 10 steps to start building your family tree. And if you follow these 10 steps, you can definitely be on your way, and you may come to a point where I was in my journey on my mother's side. You may get to a point where you just can't go anymore based on certain factors. And again, being from Louisiana, you already are set to run into some brick walls just based on our geography alone. Um, so I do want to say step one was to gather what I already knew about my family. So, as I said, we have family reunions every year. Um, so, we're putting together a paper trail every family reunion, and we are um, constantly compiling and updating as we do the following family reunions to the point where we now have about 51 pages, in our family reunion book. But again, let's go back. I said that we were looking at a surname that wasn't ours. Um, so, gathering what I already knew about our family, I did take that. And from that, I did talk to relatives, which is step two. Talk to your relatives and get more information than you had before. So I took that journey. Um, Everyone a generation above my mother and her siblings on her side are deceased. So my mother and her siblings are our last chance to get vital information um, to do to go on the journey that I'm on. So it was very important to talk to these living relatives and get as much information as we could. And as you can imagine, that with even siblings, you get information that's different. It's not, everyone won't remember the same. So even with siblings, we got information that was kind of the same, but kind of different. My aunt was saying that she had heard somewhere that one of the grandparents was pure Indian, whereas my mother said that for that same relative was pure white. So you get a difference in stories, and you kind of have to flesh through what may be true and what may not be true. So step number three, put it on paper. I did go about putting everything on paper, um, even what was rumored to be true. I put that on paper as well, because as you rule things out, you can go in and you can just kind of get rid of things and cross them out as you don't need them. So I took the good and the bad information and compiled it together um, to help me along my journey, because it wouldn't be my be all and end all of information. So I just took it as it was, like that. My step number four, I don't know where I put it. Okay, my step number four is focus on your search. You have to kind of find a focus, narrow that focus down, because you don't want it to be too overwhelming. You don't want it to be too much. So in my journey, I decided to focus on my mother's side of the family. Um, and I decided to do both branches. My mother's branch for her mother, and my mother's branch for her father, which is still a huge undertaking when you're doing something like this. But I did focus my search. I knew, what I wanted my goal to be, and I knew that I wanted the information to go as far back as I could find it. Um, Number five, you're going to search the internet. So you'll search the net for the information you're possibly looking for, with death certificates. Here in Louisiana, I'm not sure about all states, but I can say here in Louisiana, with the death certificates, anything prior to like 1980, you were able to get from like your parish. Um, but anything prior to that, you have to get from the state archives. And the state archives charges $10 per death certificate. However, the death certificates are what helped me the most on my search. So even though you may have to pay for it, the death certificates hold a lot of vital information on the death certificates. Not only are you able to get the name of the mother and father of the person who passed, but you're also able to get maybe a list of diseases that it's possible that they passed from. So that way, you're also learning if an illness may have been hereditary in your family. You're able to see that through the death certificates. So I don't mind spending the $10 to get the death certificates. Um, Again, that was a wealth of information. I I use ancestry.com. I'm not saying that everyone has to use it, but that's who I used. I did a DNA test with Ancestry, so that's where I felt comfortable housing or storing my information on Ancestry. And once I think I did like the 30-day free trial, which started me on my search. And from there, I did the membership. And the membership opens up things greatly to you. And you find out about websites such as findagrave.com. Um, you're able to go back and find military records of your deceased loved ones. Newspaper articles, you're able to look those up. Um, Here in Louisiana, I was able to find a document on marriages. And these marriages went way back to like the 17 and 1800s. So that was a wealth of information. The Catholic Church records are also a great source of information. I have other websites that I used, and as we go along this journey together, I will drop the sources and the websites that I use in the description, so that they can be used by anyone who's looking to use them. So let's move on to number 6. Explore specific websites. Um, and again, with being of Louisiana heritage, when you're exploring specific websites, um, I was able to learn some stuff based on the Georgetown. There were some names released by Georgetown, or surnames released by Georgetown, of the slaves that helped build Georgetown. And some of those names led here to parts of Louisiana where my family is from. So that is kind of leading me on a separate journey, but still within my journey of exploring my genealogy, if that makes sense. Because that wasn't something I expected to find, it wasn't something I was looking for, but it's something that came up with one of the surnames that's in my family history. Um, Number 7, as we move on our journey, would be to discover your local family history center. Um, here, here in Louisiana, and maybe every city in America has this, but I know where I'm from. I'm from the Bayou. I'm from the Bayou, and where I'm from, we have town historians, and you're free to go and speak to the town historians, and they're able to give you more information on your town, when it was founded, the founding families, um, and being as I am from the bayous of Louisiana, there are lots of plantations. I believe there were 4 or 5 within a certain area of where my family is from. and you don't always get the best information when you're looking at plantation rolls. So that makes it difficult as well. So having a town historian that you can go to that could possibly lead you to more and better information is a good thing. Number 8, we're going to take our information, we're going to organize it. Um, if you get it organized in the beginning, as you go along, it'll be easier to catalog and put it where it needs to go in the context of your family history. Um, Number 9, we want to plan our next step. It's like at the beginning, we gave ourselves a goal. What is my goal going to be? Um, how far back? How many generations am I looking to go back? Um, do I want to do just one branch of my mother's, or do I want to do both branches of my mother's? So you have to plan it. Maybe you want to do the first branch, and then it'll lead you to the second branch. But being again, um, genealogy with the queen. I'm speaking of things I know um, here in. I'm saying 504, but I'm from the 225. I'm from the Acadiana parishes. And where I'm from, I am double related to a lot of people. If you've never heard the term kissing cousins, you're welcome. Now you have. Um, I'm double related to a lot of people because where we're from, you had the intermarriages because there you didn't have a lot of options to date. And people were more concerned with keeping the property, the land, the animals in the family. So there was a big concern about that, keeping that within the family. And so people tended not to marry outside of the family structure. And that causes you to be double related. So by me focusing on my mother's side at first, with both my grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side, easily ties in with my father's side. Because as I said, I'm double related. So I'm related to people from my mother's side and also from my father's side. In which, when Ancestry, that just kind of blew their minds. They were like, what? We get to work on this? So I guess it was something different for them to actually be able to work on someone's genealogy where they had a double relation to people. And the last step is going to be to share your research. Um, I don't see why you would do all of this research to keep it to yourself. So the ultimate goal would be to share it. If not with your immediate family, then maybe on a public tree, on an Ancestry or a 23andMe. Um, yeah, because I don't think you would want to keep that to yourself, especially if you find out something good. Because I can say that with my journey, um, I have come to a point on my mother's side where the information kind of hit a brick wall for me because of the double kinships, the double relationships. It hit a brick wall for me. So it was at that point where I could no longer go back. I think I went as far back as maybe the 1820s, 1830s, and then it picked up in another state. But when you looked at that state's records, the names that I was looking for were so common that there might be four or five of the same person, first and last name, in that location. And so it was at that point that I hired a progenealogist at Ancestry.com to step in and going help me to go further back than that. And they're currently doing a wonderful job with that. So I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to start the journey here with you guys with my father's side of the family. And as I'm researching and looking for information from my father's side of the family, my hope is that I would get people to come in and take this journey with me. And as I'm working on my father's side of the tree, if someone else from Louisiana is working on their ancestry and they're looking for a way to be able to do this research, we can figure it out together. As I said, certain things that happen here in Louisiana, such as getting the death certificates, having to go to the archives, that may not happen in another state. But together, we can figure out where you could possibly go next in your search. So me helping someone else in their search may in turn help me with my search. So that's my goal. That's the goal of my channel, because it hasn't been easy being from Louisiana and having to try to find ways to further your research. And sometimes you just hit that wall, and that's as far as you can go. But there are people out there that can go further than you can go. But I encourage you, um, seeing as how I was able to do it myself um, back to the early 1800s. I encourage you, if you're on this same journey with me, step 1 through step 10, to follow the steps. And then if you get stuck before you look at hiring somebody, pop in here with me. Hopefully, I can build a following. Again, today is my first live, my first time discussing this topic as a content creator. But it's a passion project of mine. So, yeah, I'm excited to see where the journey will take me. I'm excited to see where the journey will take others who decide to take this ride along with me. So I thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for allowing me to introduce myself and my channel to you. Again, thank you for joining